Yes, sir. Good evening, members. Good evening, Venu, sir.
Good evening.
Glad you have joined us this evening. Very delighted and will be happy to listen to you. I'll not take much time. I would just introduce what KSC is all about to our members who have joined us today. KSC is a 65-year-old organization of chartered accountants. We have been very active in conducting programs. Recently, we conducted a program in Mysore on RRC. We are doing a program which is a very recent one in IT80. This is for those members who want to practice in IT80 and want to make that as a career. It will have mentorship. It will have virtual program. It will also have a live presentation of cases in front of sitting IT80 members in National Law School. So I thought I'll also speak about that program. And for those participants who have still not been member of KSCAA, please do become member of KSCAA. And also we have one more program which is on 10th and 11th. 11th we have a family day, and 10th we have badminton. So I thought I'll just inform the recent events of KSCAA. And this has been the current topic which is there is a very relevant topic. I think we would not have got any better person than Venu sir addressing this. And very delighted, sir. I'll not take much time. And also one more thing is the fees of KSCA is rising in a very short period. It is getting double. It is currently at 2,000 rupees for members who are more than 5 years, and 1,000 rupees. It's a lifetime fees, and we are raising the fees into 2. So if you want to use the opportunity to have a subsidized prices, please become a member of KSCA. Venu sir, please you can continue the presentation.
Yes, sir. Now I will just provide an introduction to the today's speaker, CA Venugopal Gella, sir. CA Venugopal Gella is a partner in Mrs. Venu and Vinay Chartered Accountants, qualified in the year 2002 by securing All India 45th rank. He is also a certified information security auditor. He has also completed various other certificate courses from ICAA, namely DISA, courses on business valuation, courses on internal audit, courses on fraud detection and forensic accounting. He has also completed a 1-year course from IIM on data analysis and business intelligence. He is an active speaker at ICAA on GST, especially on technology and its implementation challenges. He has authored various industry-specific handbooks on GST and also conducted workshops on filing returns with ease. He has developed a lot of Excel-based free utilities on GST like JSN read and creating JSN file, GSTN validator, composition versus regular scheme benefit analysis, GST impact reader, etc. His major areas of the practices are design and development of internal controls and process documentation, consulting in ERP implementation and its migration, management consultancy for business analysis and growth and design management of information systems, GST implementation and integration of accounts and return filing utility. He also conducted various workshops for corporates on use of technology, improve efficiency at work using Excel, building automated reports from accounting and financial applications. He was behind in the development and managing of cloud applications like TaxMile, Insta Financials, and others. Now I welcome CA Venugopal Gella, sir, who is the expert speaker of this webinar. Sir, welcome to you for the webinar. Over to you, sir. Sir, you have muted.
Thank you very much. And firstly, I'm happy to be part of KSCA speaking on this subject, especially in the month of December, where people are definitely eagerly waiting to file their GSTR9 and 9C. And I had been part of KSCA intensive GST session, which has been conducted in Mysore last month. I should definitely appreciate the design thinking of Pramod and the team. Very good job, and I'm sure in light of that, people who want to practice ITAT, I think that is again a wonderful opportunity which KSCA has working. Yeah. So without wasting much time, let us start the. All right. Again, screen is visible, right?
Visible, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So today's session is about the use of Excel and the other automation tools in preparation of GSTR9 and 9C, the annual returns. Now, I'm sure most of you, whether you are practicing in GST or not practicing in GST, filing of annual returns has been it is an annual exercise, and everyone have been doing it for quite a while now. So this session, I would focus more on use of technology in automating GSTR9 and 9C. Friends, it's like I'm sure the form annual return GSTR9 and 9C, I think approximately 4.5 years we've been seeing it now. 5 years of GST is over, we have seen the form, and I'm sure every one of you are aware of the form and the content. What I thought, maybe as a revision, I will briefly touch upon the basics of GSTR9 and 9C. When I say basics, it's like it could be any discussion on GSTR9 and 9C. I'll spend roughly around 45 minutes in understanding this. Then I have designed two tools for today's session, where we use Excel as a tool to extract the data. I have kept the tally as one of the source for extraction of the data, and whichever is the ERP today, every ERP has an open connector. So we will use those connectors in extraction of the data, and how do we use that for my GSTR9 and 9C preparation, whatever is the information that is required. Of course, the basic information, the trial balance, everything is there. Then I am also demonstrating the another tool. So let's say I'll spend around 15 minutes or 30 minutes in this, another 15 minutes in doing another tool, and roughly around 15-20 minutes on the question and answer. So this is how I have structured the session. Feel free to add your questions whenever, as and when it is coming. If something is missing or something you would like to add, definitely do add. Enrich the knowledge of the other participants. I see in the panel, even Subramania is there, Mukul is there. There are other attendees who are actively in GST. So there could be a good knowledge dissemination and discussion. Starting with the legal provision, we all know GSTR9 is required to be filed by every registered person. That's what the section 44 read with rule 80 says. However, the e-commerce operators and the composition dealers 9A, 9B currently is not applicable. And this form is not required to be filed by the ISD or TDS or casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person. For them, the filing of this annual return is not mandatory. What is that we need to know about it is the turnover limit for filing is those whose turnover did not exceed 2 crores, they don't need to file the annual return, and whose turnover did not exceed 5 crores, they don't need to file audit GSTR 9C. And both these forms, as of now, it is mandatory that it has to be filed as on 31st December. Going by the other trend that we have seen in this year, don't expect any extension. And there is no reason for extension to happen. And let us not also spoil our either New Year or Sankranti festival. So let us try to complete it on time. Yeah. The first question that would come up is, if you have turnover less than this threshold limit, should I be able to file? Answer is yes, you can file it. What happens if you don't file? Whatever if you log into the portal and see there are data which is auto-populated, those auto-populated values will be deemed as if that's the number, that's the final. So it's better you file that. Yeah. And just to understand the form, very beautifully drafted form, GSTR9 is divided into 6 parts and 19 tables. Part 1 is the basic information. What is more important is part 2, which talks about liability, table 4 and table 5. Table 4, which talks with the transactions which have taxable value. Table 5, transactions without taxable value. Part 3 is input tax credit, table 6, 7 and 8. Table 6 about input tax credit availed, table 7 input tax credit reversed, table 8 is a reconciliation with GSTR 2A and 2B. In fact, understanding of this annual return form 9 and 9C is very important. Also, understanding the context at which this form is designed is also equally very important. If we understand the context in which the form is designed, I think filling the data will be automatic. After the liability and ITC, the obvious thing is the tax liability discharge, the payable and paid. So part 4 deals with a tax payable and paid, which is in table 9. Ideally, the form should have got closed at this point. But however, we know the GST itself as a design, there is no concept of revising a return. Once a return is filed, it cannot be revised. Since the return cannot be revised, it is mandatory that you find a way to correct your amendments through an amendment table which is given in the subsequent month return. That means if I made a mistake, I have to correct that mistake in the next month and I cannot reopen the same month. Likewise, my GSTR 3B, if I have made a mistake, and 3B, I can call it as an advanced challan or a little higher version of it, tax payment. It's between a return and a challan, neither a return nor a challan, something like that. So if I have made a mistake in 3B, I can also correct the same thing in 3B of the next month. If I've short paid, pay it extra. If I excess paid, use it less. If I have short availed, avail it later. If I have excess availed, revise it in next month. These are 4 possible things that can happen, right? But when I keep doing it in the next month can be spillover to the next financial year also. The spillover can happen to the next financial year. And we all know the due date for correcting all of this was September return, which is October. Effective from this October, they have extended instead of October, the due date has been taken to 30th November. And when we say 30th November, it is precise 30th November. It is not a return of November. So any returns that have been filed up until November, that means a March 22 return filed in November, you can use it correction, or October return which you filed in November, you can use it for correction. That means any returns filed up to 30th November. In fact, this is a very good move because the IT returns get finalized, tax audit, everything gets finalized only at that point. While preparing the stat audit, you get into corrections, because today the accountants are getting a good qualified accountants are very few, and maybe some error could have creeped in by the tax practitioners. When a CA is looking and finalizing the income tax return, that's when he would guide saying that these are the errors that needs to be corrected. So the September month, which is filed in October, so in the month of October, you compile all those corrections, and by 30th November, you correct it and file it. So these corrections which you have done up until November is captured in your part 5, table 10 to table 14. However, government wants an additional information, so that additional information is captured in part 6, table 15 to table 19, right? This is broadly how GSTR9 is designed, and as I said, a very thoughtful drafted document. Now, to start with, what is the content that gets into GSTR9? Like, these are the forms, these are the various tables. What should be the content that needs to get in? And by the way, as we speak, let me tell you a couple of things. Wherever, of course, I'm sure this session might be recorded and may be available, but make notes, use your pen and paper, make notes. And second thing, make sure that you have a blank form to ask. And you should pardon me because I will get into table and subtables as we get along. If you have a question, feel free to put the question then and there. The first, in terms of understanding the context of this form, what is the content that needs to get into this form? Please understand, GSTR9 is a form where you are informing what is so. When we say what is so is what happened. When it comes to the turnover and the liability, you are not going to disclose the turnover and liability that according to you is your turnover and liability. You are only going to disclose whatever is the turnover on which the taxes have been paid. If you have not paid any taxes, there's no place which you can report it in GSTR9. Or when you don't have intention to pay taxes, you will not find that place in GSTR9. So GSTR9 is a place where, with regards to the liability, you will disclose the turnover on which the taxes are paid. When we say the tax payment, it could have been paid through 3B or it could have been paid through DRC03. Now, the DRC03 payment, the government said, even before filing your R9 or just you file your R9 and pay the taxes. But the point is you making the payment of the taxes. If the tax is discharged through 3B or through DRC03, then you report that relevant information in R9. If the taxes are not discharged, then, or when I said not discharged, not going to be discharged, then you will not find an entry for this in your GSTR9. So GSTR9 is an information written like your GSTR1. So after you file your GSTR9, you will not have an option to make the payment as you file your R9. It is not a return like 3B where you discharge liability. R9 is not a place to neither a discharge liability, claim a refund of excess payment, nor availment of input tax credit, nor reversal of input tax credit. R9 is a place where you report what is so. What is so is the taxes that have been paid through 3B, paid through DRC03. And when I say paid through DRC03, that payment could be before R9 or after 9, but the payment is happening. That is the context for GSTR9. That means you are reporting the factual information. The factual information when it comes to turnover and liability, the turnover on which the taxes are discharged is your part 2, read with part 4, read with part 5. And when it comes to input tax credit, you might have made a purchaser, but ITC means what you have availed. So what is reported in 3B gets into part 3. What is not reported will not get to. You made a purchase, it is there in 2A, it is there in your books of accounts, but you did not report it in 3A, then it will not get into this. Yeah. So these are the basic thing about your annual return. Before I move to my 9C, let me see if there are any questions. Request the participants to put the questions in the Q&A because it's difficult for me to open chat and the Q&A. There's one question. Sumukh is asking the turnover definition. 2 subsection 6 of the Act talks about the turnover. Turnover means taxable turnover, exempt turnover, exports, everything. And it has to be computed pan-wise. If I have a registration in the state of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana, all the 3 states turnover has to be added to see what is my aggregate turnover. And let's say I have a turnover of 2 crores, let's say 1.8 crore, 1.8 crore, 1.8 crore in all the 3 states, right? Sub 2 crores in all the 3 states. But when I put together in all the 3 states, yeah, when I put together in all the 3 states, I'm at 5.4 crore. That means the aggregate turnover is above 5 crore. I have to file R9 and 9C. R9, though in each state is sub 2 crores, I still have to file it. Hope that is clear, Sumukh. Then question from Pavan, we agree that only whatever tax turnover needs to be disclosed, but in R9. R9 is only measured to correct any mistakes in 1 and 3B. Hence, disclosing the undisclosed turnover and discharging taxes through DRC03 would be a measure of action, right? That's perfect. So you can think GSTR9 is a last opportunity to correct the mistakes that have been passed through. By November, I should have corrected my GSTR1 or 3B. I didn't correct it. So that means say I have to pay some extra taxes. I didn't pay it. So is R9 my last rescue? You will be discharging through DRC03 and you are reporting in R9 stating that yes, this is my final statement of affairs with respect to GST for this financial year. So that's right. Your understanding is right, Pavan. Then the next question is from Naresh, where purchase values were not disclosed anywhere in GSTR9, not required to disclose any purchase values in the R9 because it's only an input tax credit that is required. Whether any ITC that has been missed in 3B and the same has been there to be, can we avail in GSTR9? Tejaswini, GSTR9 is not a place to either report or avail any input tax credit additionally. You will not be able to do that. Aggregate turnover is always pan-India based. Answer is yes. Does debit notes and credit note where to disclose? I'll get into little details of the reporting of it, but let's look at the context. Missed out outward supply for financial year 21-22, but amended in 22-23. Where do we show? Yes, the part 2 is, we will get into detail, but if you have paid, you will be showing it mostly table 4 and some portions in table 10. We will understand little detail of it. How reliable is 8A of GSTR9 as it is ever changing? Pavan, I'll answer it when it comes. Can we report credit note additionally in R9? No additional reporting in R9. R9 is what is so is what is so. All right. Now I'll move to 9C. 9C, contrary to R9, 9C is what should have been. R9 is what it is. 9C, what should have been. So 9C was an audit report, all this was, and since last year, it has become self-certified. In fact, you should advise the clients the moment it became self-certified, the onus on the client making it right has become more responsibility. It has to be doubly validated by a tax advisor, tax expert like us, so that there are no errors. Because earlier we had a disclaimer to the best of my knowledge. The best of my knowledge has been removed. Now it is like true and correct. You are certifying that everything is correct. So there is no rescue. So the way this form has been designed, so 9C is divided into 5 parts, and again beautifully drafted form. So the context of 9C is what should be. Context of 9 is what it is. So what I have done is 9. What I should have done is 9C. If whatever I have done and what should have done is same, 9C will not have an additional adjustment. But what I have done is different from what I should have done. So 9C will have an additional reporting. Again, let's understand different parts. So the part 2 talks about the turnover. Part 3 is tax liability. Part 4 is the input tax credit, and part 5 is the discharge of additional liability. And if I have to, let me just, yeah. Like if I have to explain like how do we relate 9 and 9C, let's look at the context of 9C. I said 9C is what is so. 9 is what I have done. 9C is what I should have done. So 9C is I am in a right spirit. What I should have done is 9C. So, you know, like every month we know there's sufficient tax discharge that is happening to the government. We are at 1.5 lakh crore of the GST collection. So when we say GST collection, what the government is saying is taxes paid. Even if you talk to the businessman in a layman language, if the businessman talks about the GST payment every month, he is talking about the tax that he is paying every month. And if I have to further explain GST tax paid, so how do we call it as the tax paid? From the layman to an understanding like us, we will say it is your liability. It is your liability minus ITC. What we say is liability minus ITC. And when we say liability, what is that we are saying? Liability is gross liability. So liability, when we say, how do we compute? If I have to give a mathematical thing, we say turnover multiplied by rate of tax. We say turnover multiplied by rate of tax. And how do you get your turnover? When we say turnover, we are not talking about the total turnover. You want your gross turnover. What we are interested is, we want a taxable turnover. When we say turnover, what we are saying is taxable turnover, because the turnover on which the tax is payable, that is what we are looking at. And how do we get the taxable turnover? The taxable turnover is your, if I say taxable turnover, that means your gross turnover minus exemptions will give you the taxable turnover. So this is how you can determine your liability, correct? Now let's look at how GSTR9C form has been designed. Your 9C table 5 deals with what is your gross turnover. You will explain what is your gross turnover in your table 5 of 9C. Ideally, this is the total turnover that should match with the total turnover that you are reporting in your GSTR9. If this is not matching, you will give the explanation in table 6. But what we are interested only in taxable turnover. So we reduce from the gross turnover, we will reduce my exemptions and derive at the taxable turnover. We report it in table 7 of 9.6. If that is not matching, we give the explanation of that in table 8 of 9C. But am I interested in the turnover? Let's say my turnover is 1 crore, I have reported 1 crore. But is that what government is interested in? Government is interested in the tax. I would have discharged at 12% as against 18%. So what I'm more interested is the turnover multiplied by rate of tax. I compute this and I report this in my table 9 that this should be my turnover liability related on at various rates, including RCM. And if this is not matching, I give an explanation in table 10 of 9C. Owing to it, all my turnover and liability, if there is a difference that is coming, I would report this turnover and the liability related in table 11, right? This is on my turnover. When it comes to ITC, there is two things. The ITC, whether it is available and is it eligible? Yes, it is available, but is it eligible? These are the two questions we always check, right? So how do the government check? So they will look at the ITC availability. Is it there in the books of account? Is the purchase made or not? Is recorded and verified in table 12. It is simple like RBRS, which we do. And if this is matching perfectly fine, else the explanation is given in table 13. And is it eligible or not? Whatever I have availed, the eligibility of that is checked in table 14. And if it is not matching, I give my explanation in table 15. That means owing to my ITC, if there is any additional liability that is coming, I report that in my table 16. So a combination of liability that is derived in 11 and 16 is what I now report in my part 5 as a additional liability in my GSTR9C. So that's where I said this is again a very beautifully drafted form. Conceptually, one needs to understand that the data which has to be reported has been beautifully designed between 9 and 9C. Yeah. So let me now look at any questions. Then, so any questions on 9C for any of you? Pretty good. So either you completely understood and there's no question, or you're still lost. But any case, don't worry. Sure. So now we understood 9 and 9C. How do I prepare it? What is the information that I require to prepare it? So I'll list out the information that is required to prepare it, and we'll also use the tool. Again, when I come to the tools, I will share the one Excel file which you can download. Maybe parallelly, someone want to work, you can work along with me. I'll share you the Excel file. You can work. You need to have a tally data and an Excel open with you, so that should be fine. So let's understand this. Okay, there are some questions. Let me pick the question. What are the optional tables in R9? I'll come there. I haven't come. Yeah, I'm not picking any questions in the chat box. Please take the questions in your question term. So there is information that is required to file your GSTR9. GSTR9 is prepared by culmination of all this information. You need to have access to all this for preparing your annual return. Your R1, your 3B, your books of accounts, and your 2B data. A combination of it, this I will say it as a primary information. With this, you need to have an additional information. If you say you have paid taxes in next year till November, you need to know in 3B, have I paid? If I have used some taxes of the current year in the previous year, so which means I need to have previous year GSTR9. If I have paid taxes through DRC03, you need to have a GRC03. There is an additional information that needs to be reported, which is of course optional at this point. The notices and the demands related, you need that information. So this is the information that you would be needing it. So let me explain you how you compute this turnover. I'll go a little step by step. So in terms of computing your turnover in GSTR9 and 9C, first you got to freeze your turnover. Where is your turnover? It could be anywhere in the financial side. Obvious thing is the credit side in the P&L account. But I might have reimbursement, which I would have netted off against the expenditure, like section 15, where 15.2, where the value would include all the additional debits that you are doing to the customer by way of reimbursement. My travel expense, my hotel expense, my printing and stationery, whatever which I am incurring in the course of conducting the audit. On an actual basis, I am recovering it from the customer, still to be added in the taxable value. I might have those offset those collections with my either travel or accommodation or telephone in those heads, but still for the purpose of GST, this will be treated as a liability. My supply could be there on the asset side. I would have sold the fixed assets. What is reported in P&L is only profit or loss on sale of the fixed asset, but what is required for the liability is the gross value. The only thing you have notification 8/2018 where the supply of car. So there, since ITC is not availed, so if it is something 1200 cc and above, you will pay on the profit if you are making at 18% or at 12%. Again, if you are making a sale of an asset where you have availed an ITC, then you will apply Rule 44 read with 18.6, where you will be dividing the entire input tax credit into 60 months and applying only those portion of ITC which is used in the business. So let's say I have purchased the asset and sold it after 2 years. That means the balance 3 years I have availed ITC, but it is not put to use. So you got to compute unutilized portion of ITC vis-a-vis I have sold the asset, let's say for 1 lakh and at 18%, 18,000. So 18,000 or unused ITC, whichever is higher, that should be treated as your liability that you need to pay. Now, where do I find? Let's say the unused ITC value is 24,000 rupees. 1 lakh into 24, there's no rate of tax 24,000 for me to discharge. No problem. You put it in your 9C others, you will have an option to enter any value. How about 9? 9, absolutely don't worry. In table 4, you don't have to give any rate-wise reporting. Sometimes the turnover for the GST is on the liability side also. If you have received any advances from the customer, even that needs to be computed. So I'll also again show you in the tool, how do we identify if I have received any advances or if I have anything outstanding. Then there could be turnover which is outside my books of accounts, schedule 1. Because books of accounts, you will record transaction only if there is a value, monetary value. If there is no monetary value, you will not be reporting it. So you've got to add the schedule 1 transactions to the supply. So in nutshell, how do you compute your supply? So which means there is a difference between the turnover for the purpose of books and the turnover for the purpose of GST. So how do I derive this? The way you would derive is, first and foremost, you split the audited PAN-based turnover from the PAN to each GSTN-wise, you make a split of it. And also identify how much is the schedule 1 transaction. So this GSTN-wise PAN-based turnover, you make all these adjustments that you want to do, whether it is valuation related, whether it is schedule 1 transactions, or whether it is an unbilled revenue. There is a difference between time of supply. You recognize the AS9 for the accounting standard books of accounts, but you have to apply section 12 and 13 time of supply for the purpose of GST. These timing difference, either upward or downward, you'll make those adjustments. Yeah. compute and derive what is the turnover that you need to report for your GSTR9. So from the book turnover, you derive the turnover, what you have to pay, offer to the tax for GST. This turnover, whatever you have derived that you need to offer for GST, segregate into further multiple ways. If I have to pay, I have finalized that my turnover is say 7 crore 50 lakhs. This 7 crore 50 lakhs have I reported in my GSTR1, how much I have reported. Compute what is the tax rate. I have paid the taxes in 3B or not. Reconciliation 1. Reconciliation 2. How much is interstate interest rate? IGST, CGST, SGST, split it. Reconciliation 3. This 7 crore 50 lakhs, how much is 5%, 12%, 18% rate wise you do the segregation. Last reconciliation, reconciliation 4. How much of it is B2B, B2C, supply to SEZ, supply to export, debit note, credit note. So you got to do, once you derive the turnover, you got to split into 4 different types. So you need to create an Excel template or a utility so that you do step by step. The turnover is divided into these 4 different formats. Of course, all the 4 should yield you the same total. So you are splitting. So you have finalized the turnover. That turnover is split into these brackets. Again, while we demonstrating a tool which is going to do automatically for you. So that's what I said. The turnover as per the book, which is derived, split into rate wise, split into B2B, B2C, and if something is missing, how much. All those you got to reconcile. Yeah. After reconciliation, if you have made some short payment of tax, now you can pay through DRC03. The additional liability, it has to be paid only through cash. Ideally, that's what the portal says, only through the cash. There are some edge cases, some exceptions. In an exceptional scenarios, it can be paid through ITC. I am not going to say that you can pay through ITC. There are very exceptions. Short payment of taxes, or I have claimed excess ITC or ineligible ITC, everything I can pay while filing my GSTR9 or while filing my GSTR9C. How do I report the turnover and liability? Turnover is reported, I said, into 2 tables, table 4 and table 5. Table 4 is pretty detailed, very beautifully drafted form. 4A is B2C, 4B is B2B, 4C is exports with payment, 4D is supply to SEZ with payment, 4E is deemed exports, which is taxable outward supply. 4F is advances that you have received. So it's not a supply, you agree to make a supply. So invoice would be there in next year. So that will come under 4F. You also have a liability on account of reverse charge. The reverse charge is computed in 4G. Now, all this while there was an exemption given to report of credit notes and debit notes. So 4I is reduction in turnover, 4J is debit notes. 4K is amendment upward, 4L is amendment downward. Those who are filing annual returns, you should be knowing these subtables also so that you know appropriately where do I report my turnover. For example, GSTR1, I filed everything under table 7 as B2C. Can I correct it now? Yes, you should correct it. You should report under 4B and you should not report under 4A. Errors can happen, but GSTR9 is a last opportunity to report what is the right turnover. After reporting the taxable turnover on which the transaction tax liability is there, the exempted turnover goes to table 5. When I say exempted, the right word is the outward supplies on which tax is not payable. So it means it's not an exempted supply, but it's a supply, but where there is no tax liability. That is export without payment of tax, SEZ supplies without payment of tax. All this gets reported here. So your total turnover is 4N, which is taxable, 4N minus 4G, which is taxable outward, and exempted is 5M. So ensure all these are reported. So also there are other sources you have to check. You have filed your income tax audit report. You have 26 AS. You have the TDS returns that have been disclosed. You should use all the sources of information that is officially available outside. Because when you log into AIS, you see the GST data. You log into GST, you see the IT return filed information. You also have to have a look about tagging those information. So with this, I have come to the end of the turnover related declaration. Let's move to ITC related declaration. If there are any questions on the turnover, I'll pick up those questions because I also want to spend equal time on the usage of the tool. Let me see if there are any questions in the. Okay. So Subramania has hinted GSTR9 for 9 months and 2B for 3 months. Yes, in the ITC, we are going to discuss this. Bharati, but in 9C part B was not there last week when I downloaded and filed, but now it's asking me to mandatory filing information of CA. Please suggest, Bharti, I think if you're filing for the earlier periods, you will still have to do what the form which is there as on that date. Should input tax credit data be compared with 2A or 2B, Nandini? I'm going to answer it now. GSTR9 as is basis, we cannot make any adjustment in R9. We shall file the auto computed R9 as it is. No, Madhu sir, your understanding is wrong. If you have to file an auto computed value, then there is no requirement of filing it. If the auto computed values only I have to file, then there is, why should I fill it? Because it's already filled. So government, no, I would say R9 is the last opportunity to do a right reporting of the information that you have done it. Mukul has raised a hand. Mukul, you would want to add something?
No, sir, nothing. Sorry, that was my mistake.
Yeah. Um, 2A 9 months, 2B 3 months. I'm going to come in a while. Input reconciled with 2A, is it mandatory? Yes, Naresh, it is mandatory. GSTR9 we have answered as is basis. Non-taxable supplies which is shown in GSTR1 financial year 21-22, should it be shown in R9? Yes. You have to show in R9 all the turnover, taxable or not taxable. For example, I am a proprietor. In my books of accounts, I have salary income, which is Schedule 3 supply. Let's say some mutual fund gain, which I have. So where should I show turnover? So you will also use in your exempted turnover, there is something called non-GST supply, which includes no supply also. Ideally, the attempt is to include entire credit which is there in the P&L, so that in one go you will be able to, during the assessment, you should be able to track it. Sumukh is saying turnover includes interest income, dividend income, or only aggregate turnover. For the purpose of computing the turnover limit of applicability of 9 and 9C, 2 subsection 6 aggregate turnover, which will exclude no supply. However, while reporting, after choosing the form, while reporting, you will report no supply also. Shashikala, where do I report if export turnover wrongly declared with payment of tax, but actually without payment of tax? Only option is selected is GST. So you made an error in GSTR1. In GSTR1, you by mistake you ticked as with payment of tax, but you did not make any payment of tax in 3B, and you have an LUT. Where do I declare? Since it is not a transaction with the taxable, you will not report it in table 4, Shashikala. You will be reporting it in table 5. All right. This is a little lengthy question. SSC has been rented a commercial space for business during 21-22. The SSC has vacated. However, landlord had issued a tax invoice after the vacation. The SSC has not claimed ITC and requested the landlord to issue a credit note for the same, but landlord did not do so. SSC has raised a debit note while filing 3B. The same was noticed during the audit, so it could not be amended within the same period. Is there a way in annual return to rectify the same? Okay, Archana, to put short your question, I made a supply by way of invoice. Actually, I did not do a supply. It's like, since SSC, the tenant vacated, ideally I should not have raised an invoice, but I have raised an invoice. I should cancel that invoice. It's a supply did not even happen. So merely raising an invoice is like you have provided or agreed to provide it. So you need to issue a credit note. The concept of debit note, credit note is only from the supplier. The recipient providing a debit note is not equivalent to supplier issuing a credit note. Supplier has to issue a credit note. This credit note should be issued on or before 30th November, and that is the right way of doing it. What do you mean by deemed exports? Again, I'm not picking that. What is SEZ supply? I'm not picking that. So at the end, if there is a time permit, please you ask. Right now, I'll restrict only questions to R9. Non-GST supply means petrol and diesel. Yes, you can no supply. Non-9 subsection 2 or schedule 3, everything you can report it under 5F. Perfect. We have answered all the questions relating to turnover. And Subramanya and Mukul, if you feel something to be added, feel free to correct it also. Okay, let's move to ITC. ITC, as I said, we have 3 tables, table 6, 7, and 8. Table 6 is the availment of input tax credit. That means what I have availed is what I will be reporting here. Table 7 is reversal of input tax credit. If I have reversed some input tax credit, I will be reporting here. And table 8 is reconciliation with the 2A. This when it comes to GSTR9. And when it comes to 9C, table 12, whether I have availed, whether it is there in the books of accounts, when I have availed this year, next year, all those reconciliation. And how much is eligible, how much is ineligible, and segregating expenditure wise is in table 14. This is what we are going to report in my GSTR 9 and 9C. How do I freeze my input tax credit? First and foremost, you need to have an access to the books of accounts, the expenditure wise, the input tax credit. So this segregate all the expenditures between with ITC, without ITC, or with GST, without GST. Those which are with GST, identify whether it is eligible or not eligible, and those which is not without GST, see if there is any exempt or non-GST that exists or RCM that exists. Yeah. So the reason why we segregate, why I asked to do this while preparing R9, you definitely need to know how much of the expenditure is without GST, how much of it is RCM. Because RCM, if you do in a timely manner, avail a report and avail input tax credit, you have. If you miss out 2 years, 3 years later in the GST department audit finds it, you only have a liability and no ITC. You cannot plead on revenue neutrality. That's when you will have a loss of taxes. Again, those expenditure which are doing with GST, you have to see whether it is eligible or ineligible. This classification is something that you need to be doing. And how do you use the input tax credit? We know section 17 gives you a detailed explanation as to how we have to report and use the input tax credit. The time limit to avail is 30th November. The tool which I'll demonstrate will give you an option how much of the credit is matching with the portal, how much of the credit is appearing only in the books and not in portal. That is where you can see whether you can apply 36 sub rule 4. And if the credit is only in the portal and not in the books, you have to see whether it is missed in accounting or ineligible, not your credit. Where do I report it in your 8E or appropriately 8F? Where do I report is what we have to see. And here is where both Subramanya and someone was hinting that should it be 2A or 2B? Ideally, it is 2B. However, the rule 36 sub rule 4 got amended time to time, and effective from 1st Jan 22 this year, where the government said you can take credit only if it is there in your 2A filed within time, that is 2B. Prior to that, the government was allowing you can take 5% of the credit over and above what you are seeing, which is visible. This 5% was like a temporary credit. Credit will eventually be there at a different point in time. Credit will be there at a different point in time. When we say different point in time, the supplier could have filed it in April, May, June, July, August, September, by November. That means in table 8A of GSTR9C, GSTR9, it should appear. My 2A in the month of April is 100. My 3B in the month of April 21, I'm talking, is 105. I have taken 5 rupees more than what is there. No issue. That supplier should have reported it on or before 30th November. If the supplier reports on or before 30th November, it would find a place in table 8A, and what you are claiming in table 6B, both will be matching. Again, pardon me for this table number. Since I am into this domain, I will have to be using, and wherever you are making note of table numbers, it will be useful while you are actually doing it. Yeah. So the instances when ITC has to be reversed, whether it is ineligible under 17 subsection 5 or reversal in case of non-payment within to the vendor within 180 days, rule 37. Again, I'll demonstrate another tool. How do I identify this 180 days? The ineligible credits we know. So eventually you got to reconcile how much of the credit is there in the books and how much of the credit you have availed. So in my books, which is there, availed in next year, I reduce, brought forward from the previous year, I add, do some reconciliation, get a hold of the macro level data. So GSTR9 and 9C is both a science and an art. You need to know the precise mathematical formulas as to how do you do the reconciliation. Then you need to know where you have to report and how you have to adjust the reporting of it. Moving on to the reconciliation with the next item, which is RCM. 9.3 and 9.4. 9.4 is only for the works contract. 9.3 is all notified purchases. 9.3 is a vast area. It has been increasing time to time. So what I have highlighted in the blue color is what you will have to be careful of, because most of the businesses will have. So I have highlighted it in blue color. So only when we say 9.3, people know GTA legal, but there are many beyond GTA legal. There are many things time to time getting added. In fact, recent addition is renting of immobile property from 1st June of this year. If you are making a payment to a landlord and landlord is not registered, you pay under RCM. So time to time, these expenditures are getting added. That is where I said you got to prepare expenditure with GST, without GST. Goods, very small list. So now let's see reporting and reconciliation. Firstly, the reporting of the RCM is there, liability side in 4G, ITC side in 6C and 6D. From the unregistered dealer purchases is in 6C and registered dealer purchases in 6D. The control point is the sum total of ITC, both the 6C and 6D should be lower than the 4G. That means my tax payment, you cannot have zero liability, but availment under ITC. Likewise, in your GSTR2A, you have an option to filter and see who are the suppliers who have supplied to me, where they say they are saying that I have to pay under reverse, check that and do a data entry. Lastly, on the adjustment, so that is missed out turnover, which you are reporting, where do you do? So the missed out turnover, if you have paid it in GSTR9C, if you have paid it in GSTR9C through 3B, if you have, sorry, not 9C, if you have paid through 3B, your liability you have paid through 3B, then you will report that in your table 4. If you have paid the taxes through 3B, you will be reporting that in table 4. If you have paid it, but you have paid it in the next year, if you have paid it in the next year, then you will be reporting in table 10. You will be reporting in your table 10. So it is very important for us to understand where are we reporting these turnovers. So the reporting of turnovers in the respective periods is very much important. Now, 3B of the previous year, it means 3B of the previous year, it means table 4. 3B of the current year, 3B of the current year, it means table 10. 3B of the previous year is table 4. 3B of the current year is table 10. So get understanding of this very clearly. current year means up to November. So these are the two tables that you'll report. Missed out turnover, you are paying through DRC03. The DRC03 value goes to table 4. This is the total liability that you have paid. In fact, I will say books turnover could be a wrong word. The turnover on which the taxes are paid. The turnover on which the taxes are paid. Paid through 3B in the previous year, table 4. Paid through 3B in the current year, table 10. If you have adjusted, it will be table 11. Instead of this, you are paying through DRC03, then it is table 4. This is a simple math. If you know this correctly, then reporting will not have an issue. Today, the assessment notices are system driven. System is going to check for this. And the summary, the total turnover is there in your table 4, 10, and 11. Total liability is there in table 9 and table 14. The taxes paid also is there in table 9 and table 14. This is what one has to understand about GSTR 9 and 9C. Before I go on to the reporting changes that is specifically for this year, let me look at if there are any questions. How reliable is GSTR 9 table 8A plus Pavan? Reliable, according to me. Where would data in 8A be captured? I will demonstrate a live 8A. Santosh, in case of credit note appearing in 2B, but the copies are not received, what is the impact to be taken in 3B or 9C? Credit note appearing in 2B, but the physical copies you might have not received. What is the impact? That's okay. Your e-document can also be treated as a physical document. How table 9 and 14 would add up to the liability to the table 10, 11, 12 not to be considered? Okay, Jigar, the values in table 4 goes to table 9. Values in table 10 and 11 goes to table 14. So that is where 9 and 14. Table 12 is only an information table. So ignore your question, table 12, you can ignore it. All right. So let's look at the reporting changes that have happened in the current period. Debit notes and credit notes were earlier optional. Now it is made mandatory. So you cannot net it off. Exempted turnover, earlier exempted nil non-GST, we were showing in one turnover. Government said segregate non-GST, put it under 5F. Exempt nil can be merged, but no supply, move it to 5F. ITC from registered, unregistered, they said segregate and show it. Table 17 HSN wise reporting is now mandatory. 6 digits for 5 crores and above, up to 5 crores, 4 digits. Table 10 is additions or amendments. It should only include if the taxes paid through 3B. It is not through DRC03. Next, RCM related reporting should not be in table 10. It should be moving to the next year. Table 13 is the ITC that is availed in the subsequent year up until November, not September, up until November. You have to report here. Table 6 ITC, earlier when you can't do it, the government said you merge everything, but now it is clear that the capital goods have to be segregated and reported separately. Table 18 HSN wise summary reporting, it continues to optional, and the last table, last part, your part 6 continues to be remain optional other than table 17. These are the notification 14/2022. When it comes to your 9C, they said the table 12 is mandatory. Earlier that was optional. And this is where I said that they have removed the to best of my knowledge has been omitted. So 9C now has to be more precise and accurate. In 9C, table 5, if you can't do the turnover-wise reconciliation, you continue to report it in 5O. Table 14, they still continue to make it optional. But however, clause 44 of the tax audit report was not optional. If you have reported information there, the same information. Part B, the auditor recommendation is not there, but your liability to discharge other information is there in your 9C. Okay, so let's move to the question and answers before I look at any demo. What is penalty for 9 and 9C? 0.25% of the turnover in the state CGST and SGST is the liability which you do not pay. So every day it is 100 rupees subject to the maximum of 0.25%. In 6B, should we take gross ITC or should it be taken net of reversal? It should be taken the gross ITC. Whatever, when I say gross, the credit notes is what I'm presuming. The credit notes you will be reporting in your table 7. Both are okay. As long as you have an explanation, both are okay. Whether we have to check rule 86B measure, see, you are fulfilling conditions which are given for the purpose of the export or the other conditions that are there in terms of whatever the ITC that you are availing, say minimum 1% to be discharged. So some various criteria that needs to be fulfilled. Ideally, you have to do it. And if it is not, you will anyhow be getting a notice. If in GSTR9 we have reported turnover net of credit note, should we bifurcate in R9? Poonamji, I don't, in 3B, I can understand you can report net of credit note. How in R1 you can report credit note, net of credit note, because credit note is in a separate section which is in table 9 and the taxable turnover reporting is in table 4 and 7. You can't in any way do a net. So it has to be, yeah, if in 3B you have given a net of, that's perfectly fine. In R1 information you have detailed. In your table 4, report it in your 4A, 4K, you make those segregation and report it. That's perfectly fine. All right, so we have answered these questions. I'm just removing those questions for my ease so that I can only see open questions. Perfect. So let me share.
Venu sir, sorry to interrupt you. Just one question here. Late fee and penalty, will it be charged on 9 if it is delayed in filing, or will it only be late fee?
Okay, it will only be the late fee. Wherever the late fee is defined under the law, I don't see a reason why there will be a penalty also. According to me, it is only late fee.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I am sharing 2 URLs using which you can download 2 Excel files.
Venu sir, Ganesh here.
Yes, sir.
Sir, this one in HSN outward, we have to mention the rate-wise rate also. So whether we need to ensure that that should match with table 9 of GSTR9, say, excluding RCM.
Advances, you don't need to have it for advances. So you reduce the advances, and the portal doesn't check the validation for B2C. So ideally, it should be excluding 4F. It should match.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And 4G.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So I have shared 2 links in the chat. When you click on that link, let me just share the screen. I have shared 2 links. The chat. Yeah. So when you click on this link, so I'm clicking the first one, extract ledger voucher. So it will give you the thing. Don't try to do anything on the Excel. Please download it as an Excel file as such. So you just file download as an Excel file. Just download this as an Excel file as such. So because it had some power queries and other information. So once you download this Excel file, let me just open the Excel file. First is on the ledger vouchers report. So you will be seeing a file ledger vouchers report. Okay. So I have the tally data. here is my tally data. I will be explaining it how this tool works and what this it do. Hope you have downloaded the file and you have the tally data. You can work parallelly or just make notes. Pretty simple thing. In fact, I don't understand any complicated stuff. So just for me to understand, I have to simplify. So anything I do, I only simplify and break it into a simple thing so that I can understand. So if I am able to do anything, that means anyone can be able to do. So what does this Excel file do? So here is the Excel file. I first have to, my step one, I have to extract what are the ledgers I want. Basically, I want for my table 14, for my computing vouchers with GST, without GST, all those things. Sorry, why did this go here? So I have an Excel file and I have a tally data. In my tally data, I am going to my duties and taxes, GST. So everyone have different ledgers which people create. Okay. So I am picking my input GST. You can actually do this for your output also for your analysis of the sales and everything. So I'm the easy of it. I'm doing input GST, input SGST, input IGST. So you can apply this. I want to extract the data. So what I have done, you can open your tally data. Write down which is the ledger you want to open it. Right now I have hard coded, so I've just given the date here, but you put whatever the date in the code, I have hard coded it. So this is, by the way, pretty large data. Not a this has some 52,000 vouchers. 52,000 vouchers is a reasonably large. So there's a lot of purchases. It is there. So what I am doing is I will go to the ledger voucher report. I will be going to my ledger voucher report. You can see there is a table design and a query, which means some query I have written. So there is the data. So you can click on the table design and hit this button called refresh. You can hit on the table design and hit this button called refresh. Or you right click on the table, and hit the button called refresh. So in both the way, you can refresh by right clicking on the table, or you can do it. What does it do? It may take anything between 1 to 3 minutes basis the volume of the data. How will you know it is done? You can see at the bottom of the screen, here, it is saying running a query in the background. It is saying it is running a query in the background. That means it is extracting all the data that is required. So from this 52,000 vouchers, it has extracted all the data that is required. Okay. What did it do? It got the vendor name, it got the party GST number and the GST amount and whichever is the ledger. So it got some information. Okay. Now the Excel, I'm sure we are all masters in Excel. So let's say it only gave me debit credit. I want to get the net amount. There will be, you will be moving the ledger from input GST to your output GST or offset some ledgers. So if you want to consider or ignore some items, you can just map it and see. The debit in tally, debits will always be negative, credits will always be positive. Yeah. Wherever party GSTN is missing, then you can also see why GSTN is missing. So by default, we can just apply a simple pivot and just putting it as consider, and so let me see why GST numbers are missing. You can see there are RCM, some bank charges. So we know the electronic ledgers are my offset ledgers. They are not the real ledger. The RCM is also the offset ledger. So I can ignore these ledgers. I can say ignore. So I can also set my other ledger. So I can say, I can just ignore this. And so you also know which is the table. Just the moment you click on this, you can know the table name of it. So this is called, I have written it as final table. Now I'm just inserting a pivot. So you can just go to insert a pivot table for the final table. In the, I'm just for the ease of it, I'm inserting it in the right side of here. I'm inserting in the existing. Request to, oh, sorry. Final table inserted into a pivot table here. So let's see what does this you will be able to do now. I am pulling the data. I want the party name by party. Yeah, here we go. We can just do the beautification. So I'm just sorting the data smallest to the largest so that we know what values have come. And I only need the values that I need to consider. So here we go. You have all the information that is required. How much is CGST, SGST, IGST? You have all the information that is required by each of the vendor, the information you have, right? So this is how you will be able to prepare the information. This is how you will be able to prepare the information. So anyone, any doubt in understanding this? If you have any questions in this before I move to the next one, you can ask. So in one go, like assuming you might have some tool where you want to map with the GST number, you can in one go you get all the information by GST number also. So that you want the date, all the fields are there automatically, like on a click of a button, you got this information directly from the portal. So is this clear? Anyone has any doubts in this? Tejaswini, if GSTR9 is not filed because of the turnover, what are the consequences? The late fee is applicable. How to make reversal of common credit for financial year 21-22 if you have not in 3B? Madhu, you pay it through DRC03 and report it in your table 9C. Can we use the same template for Tally Prime? This perfectly fine works for Tally 6.3 onwards, 7, 8, 9, and Tally Prime also. How did the data get imported into Excel from Tally? Could you please reiterate? So today there is something called ODBC, open data, which you can communicate between two sources. So I have written a small query which is running in the background. Your job is to refresh. It's like when you buy a car, you don't need to know how the engine works. You need to know where to press the accelerator and this, and the car moves. So after that, where you want to go is like your job. Likewise, how you want to drive this is your job. Perfect. So with this, we have answered these questions. Let me go to the other tool. And let me go to the other tool. So the other tool is the getting the data for managing your Rule 37 or for managing the various reasons. So you need to have the vendors from which to whom you have not made the payment. You need to have the vendors to whom you have not made the payment, or the customers from whom you have received the money in advance. The customers from whom you have received the money in advance, right? So let me show how this tool works. So again, I have shared in the chat another tool, extract overdue data. So you open the tool, it has some version. Right now, this is the version, and let me just refresh the first one. It will show you your list of. Okay, this is actually not required, but because I have hard coded it. So if you come to your outstanding of the data, all that you will do is you go to your outstanding, hit the refresh button. So there is this tally data. It is saying this is the tally data. So it has extracted the information. Like how you have to do small work for the other thing, you might also have to do small work here. So I have given an aging analysis, however you want to make an aging analysis. So there is the age formula which I have written for the first 4 columns. You can just use that and copy it up until the end. You can copy the formula till the end. Yeah. Once this is copied, there is an aging report. There is a pivot table. Just come and refresh this. Now, what is that we want to know? We want to know 2 things. One, first I want to know my current asset, which is sundry. Basically, I want to know my sundry debtors. In my sundry debtors, if I have any positive number, which means it is an advance received from my customers. So you can just glance through this data, or you can just sort it by smallest to the largest. Yeah, there is no advance received from the customer. Then what you want to know your sundry creditor. And you want to know if you have, which are the people whom you have paid late now more than 180 days. So here are these vendors where you have paid, where it is outstanding more than 180 days. So I've just only extracted what I need. So 180 days to 365 and 365 and above. These are the people I have not made any payment. Hence, I need to compute the ITC on that, and I need to reverse this. So the way, again, let me just tell you the way it works is you got to keep your tally data open. Point number 1, you got to keep your tally data open. Point number 2, you go to this outstanding, just right click and hit the refresh button. And there is a pivot table which is already prepared. So you will be able to see this in the pivot table. So these are the 2 Excel utilities. Definitely one should be aware of or use it to simplify your life while preparing your R9 and 9C. Any questions? Gauri Manjunath, when I clicked on refresh, I am getting an error. Maybe which version of the tally Excel you are using, I don't know. Ideally, you should be having the Office 365 or 2016 and above, then it would be work. Using this tool for aging analysis, is bill-wise booking mandatory? Yes. The premises which is you are booking bill-wise only, then I can do that P4 adjustment and see which bills are outstanding bigger. Poonam, how did the data got imported from Excel to Tally? Poonam, on the table, right click and refresh. So you do that, it gets imported, right? So we have seen the first demo, use of Microsoft Excel in automation. Then the second demo, I am using another utility. This is the utility which we use in the office, where this is a cloud application, which is Tally on Wheels. Again, the objective, the advantage of this utility, let me just go back to that screen where I said the information that is required for our annual returns. So for filing your annual returns, I said the data can lie anywhere. Yeah, your data can lie anywhere. Could be, it will, you need all this information and this information for preparing your GSTR9. So that is where again this tool will be useful. So the second tool which I am demonstrating is this, which will be useful, which will extract the data from the government portal automatically. So for this, what I need is I need the tally data. So yeah, so I need a tally data. Let me show you. So I have a tally data for the financial year 21-22. There is a tally data, and this is a cloud-based application. So let me go to the cloud. Yeah, here is the thing. So this is Tally on Wheels is the URL name. So Tally on Wheels. So let me log in to this application. Yeah. So, okay, since I already logged in, it just jumped into it. You can create your own login. So once I log in, I have to do first, if the company is not there, the way in fact this works is I create a group or I create an entity. Let's say I create an entity called KSCAA. I create this entity, and I can add many companies in this entity under KSCAA. So there are no companies. Let me add a company. And so to add this company, you need to have an utility. So first time when you are doing, it will say that you need a connector. I click this button. It will download a small utility. It is a one-time installation of a thing which will extract the data from the tally for reconciliation automatically. So I open this utility. It's a one-time thing. If you are using Windows, hit this more information and run anyway. So this utility will help you to sync the data from the tally for the purpose of all these things which we have seen, to extract all this information. That is what this utility is going to do. So once I do it, let me. Yeah. So I have installed the agent. Where did it go? Yeah. 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 So the moment it is done, it is add your, there are no entities. So I'll say add my tally company. I'll just hit this button called add. So the moment I do it, it will automatically add it. So it's like it's done. I have an option to sync the data. So I just press this button, 21-22, all the information for the financial year 21-22 gets seamlessly synced. In fact, we use this tool extensively for our stat audit, internal audit, and everything, including our GST annual return filing, because it is going to do all the information that is required. So now that the company is added, let me go back. I want to file my GSTR9 and 9C. I want to file my GSTR9 and 9C. So yeah, so I'm selecting this company. There is a demo data. So Italian wheels demo. So I'm selecting this. I'm saying GSTR9 and 9C preparation is what I want to do. I hit this button, prepare GSTR9 and 9C. So what does this do? This will do a multiple job. Whatever which I have said, it is going to fetch the data. It is going to fetch the data from the government portal. So all my R1, 3B, everything will be fetched. Again, just a matter of a couple of minutes. So the data is fetched. So how does it fetch it? So here, first I have to log in using OTP. So I have to, in the GSTN portal, I have to enable the OTP access, because that's the right and authenticated way of accessing a different GSTN data. So enable the OTP. I'll say login using the OTP, and I enter the portal name, confirm the username, password, confirm you don't need the password, you only need the username. The moment I confirm, I would get an OTP on my mailbox. So here is the OTP. So let me take the OTP. And so I am now logged in to the government portal through OTP. So it says once after the OTP, it will be valid for a period of 6 hours. So what does this do? Now, on just click of a button, I need the data for the period. I need the data for the period April 21 to March 22. I need it for the period April 21 to March 22. So again, all that I do is I just click this button. All the information is what I want. I'm selecting all, and I'm saying download from the government portal. In a normal course, if you have to download each month, I go GSTR1, April, May, June, July, put it in Excel, download, or JSON file, download, use a tool to convert. Every time when I hit download, it will take 15 minutes for each of the months. So I have to download R1, I have to download 3B, I have to download 2A, I have to download 2B. Now, if you can see on the left side, it is just downloading May, it is complete. It's tax return summary complete. Downloading June, it's complete. So you can see step by step each month it is downloading the data from the government portal. So the data from the government portal is seamlessly, it has downloaded into the books of accounts. Once this download is happened, so what is that I need to do? I said in the earlier slide, I have to reconcile my data of how much is there in 2A, how much is not there in 2A. I am now using the word 2A. What is the difference between 2A and 2B? It's only a timing difference, but on a larger scale, both will match. So now I'm using 2A for the purpose of reconciliation. So I'm going here. So all the month's data is automatically, it is downloading. I'm saying upload purchase register. So I'm saying upload the purchase register. So I have to get the data from the tally to do the reconciliation of the purchase register. In fact, it is doing the HSN summary, all the information that is required. It is going to do seamlessly for us. We don't need to do an additional job. So it says this is the data I find. I'm saying, okay, use this company and use the existing ledgers that I have already imported. I'm importing the transactions for the period April 21 to March 22. So again, it is all step by step. So I am importing this data because I have to reconcile how much of the data which I have availed in 3B is matching with 2A, how much I have to carry forward to next year. So what should I report in table 12 of 9, table 13 of 9, table 8C of 9? for which I need to know how much of my purchases have been reconciled or not. Using the earlier tool, we could extract the data from Excel, from Tally, and I have put it into Excel. But I need to again download the data from the government portal, which is 2A. And again, I have to see how much of it is matched, how much of it did not match. All those exercises, I have to do it manually if I'm using Excel utility. But this utility is taking the data from the Tally, which is, and by the way, this is only for the Tally. So this utility is taking the data from the Tally, all the relevant vouchers, and it is also reconciling with what is there in the government portal, so that what data has to go to R9 in which table. So entire data has come. Let me just download this Excel. Let's download this Excel and see what has come. Let me just open this Excel. So this is the Excel that has come. So I have uploaded the data. It says some entries which have come. I am saying confirm and save these entries. So these are automatically uploaded for the purpose of reconciliation. Let's see what is there in this Excel. So I have my Tally purchase register. By the way, it is little more beautiful than the earlier Excel. In the earlier Excel, I have only got the vendor name. In the earlier Excel, I only got the vendor name. But now it is also saying where is that vendor classified as, which ledger in Tally it has been booked as, what is the ledger type, whether it is expense or capital goods, capital assets, all those additional classifications it is also doing. And it is also giving me other vouchers. And it has extracted the trial balance for the period, both debit, credit. And more importantly, it is giving me a reconciliation saying that, hey, look, let me freeze the header. So it is saying, okay, value of this purchases IGST in trial balance is so much. Basis the GST, I have found so much. And if there is any difference, let's say staff welfare, you have incurred 65,000, but I did not find any expenditure on staff welfare in the utility. So it is also trying to give you table 14 related information and also match it. And the data, once it is there in Excel, we all can do pivot table, everything. So it is also able to recognize whether it is the purchase or it is a journal, it is a payment like bank charges is a payment, all those things it is also able to recognize and prepare it. Now what is next? So my Excel, so I have uploaded everything. I have uploaded the purchase entry. So continue preparing your GSTR9. So I'm saying prepare your GSTR9. This is the important step. So there is a utility, you have to say run GSTR9 matcher. So it is requesting to match to do the GSTR9. So it has done the GSTR9 matching. What does that mean? What did it do? It matched the books of accounts turnover GSTR1 3B and imported the data. And according to it, I'm not saying that the tool will give you the perfect R9. If the tool is going to give us perfect R9, then our role itself will go off. So it has prepared the thing, and now it is ready for downloading my GSTR9. Let me click download my GSTR9. Download 2122 R9 version. Download. No, it is not downloaded. Yeah. So now this utility is preparing GSTR9 for us. What does now that mean? Let me again go back to the same slide. What does that mean for us? Is this utility is giving us all this information at one place. All the information at one place. Where is that? Where did it download? Yeah. Let's wait, let it get downloaded. Yeah, so the file got downloaded. Okay, it got downloaded multiple times. Let me open this utility which has prepared. Enable editing. So it has downloaded a data. It has downloaded a data where it is saying this is your GSTR9. It has given all the information. It has given all the information which is relevant to your GSTR9. And it has given you, let me hide all the chat. Yeah, let me zoom this for you. Okay. So there is a data which is called GST returns data, which means data which has been downloaded from the government portal. Then there is a reconciliation data. So it has reconciled something with the books versus R1, 3.1, 2A, all those things. Then it has prepared my GSTR9 working file and the turnover and ITC computation. Something it has prepared. Let us see all this information one by one. First, my GSTR1. So it is said this is your turnover. So this is the GST number. It automatically said this is the GST number. This is the turnover in various tables of my GSTR1, including amendments. Someone was asking about credit notes, including amendments, credit note. This tool has prepared. I have a home button. I just click on home button. I will navigate back here. And I want it to get the summary in little detail. I get month over month, what is my information. Month over month, whatever is my information, it is also preparing April, May, June, July, whatever is the information which is there, that information is also prepared. Both 1 and 3B. More importantly, by GSTR1 invoices by the filing period. This is one other beautiful report which I like from this tool is now most of the times we don't compute interest for the delayed payment. Looking at the filing reporting details, it is also preparing a matrix. In this example, you can see that for the month of July, my turnover is totally 89 lakhs. How did I report? In July, I reported 44 lakhs. August, I reported 39 lakhs. September, I reported 4.9 lakhs. So this tool is also giving me, if I have to end up paying interest, which month where there is a wrong reporting or short reporting, it is giving me a adjustment. And up until November, whatever the corrections that have happened, it is taking care of that. It is taking care of the corrections up until November. Then this tool is also doing GSTR 2A versus 3B, which is already there in the portal. So this is the value which I'm finding in my 3B. This is the value in 2A. So in 1 month I have short availed, 1 month I have excess availed, YTD on a year 2 basis. So what is there in my 3B? What is there in my 3B? In this example is 17.53 lakhs. What is there in 2A is 15.7 lakhs. It says I have excess availed 1.82, which means in the subsequent period, ideally it should have come up, but it did not come up. So like this, there's a various information, GSTR1 data, 3B data, and what is the data of which is there in the government portal. So as per the government portal, whatever is the GSTR9 values are there, even that it has also brought. Then we wanted this reconciliation. How much is the data which is there in the books and how much is there in 2A? So various basis the rate wise, because we need rate wise, invoice wise, it is giving me a reconciliation, books versus at a consolidated level. You want at a line item wise level, you want to do a reconciliation at a line item wise level. There is a report which is giving with at a line item wise level also. The same data is there customer wise level also. Now what I am more interested in showing is GSTR9 working file. This tool has prepared some GSTR9. This tool has prepared some GSTR9. So how much is the data? And this data is coming from this sheet called turnover computation. Let's go there. So you can see this. It is asking the data. You report what is the turnover which is there as per books of accounts. Let's say as per books of accounts, I have 8 crores as my turnover. Okay, 8.5 as my turnover. And this is what we said. So this is my PAN based turnover. How much you want to split the GSTN based? So the GSTN based split happened. And let me move the subtotals to the top so that it's easy for me. Yeah. So then what is required for us is to adjustment unbilled revenue. And let's say I had an unbilled revenue in the beginning of the year, which I have invoiced during the year, let's say some 35 lakhs. Okay. And I have also received some advances from the customer. Let's say I have received some 15 lakhs advances from the customer. And end of the year, let's say I have some, again, unbilled revenue. So let's put a different number and some advances at the beginning of the year. I'm entering some numbers. So I have derived what is the turnover for the purpose of GST. How much of it is taxable, non-GST it is asking. Let's say I have some 13,50,000 is exempt. So it's saying, okay, 7.76 is what you have to pay. And this is segregated into rate wise. This is what you have to give you the information for rate wise. So it is trying to report. In fact, the advances, the moment I said the last opening balance was some 25 lakhs, closing balance some 35 lakhs. So those adjustment also it has taken. And it is saying that you are supposed to pay, in this case, 7 crore 94 lakhs, some 22 and 9 lakhs. What you have paid is this much information. What you have short paid is so much information. So it is giving me a bifurcation and a breakup. Let's say in the tax paid details. So I can make these entries and adjustments. Likewise, my ITC also I can enter how much I want to report ITC as per books of accounts. How much I have reversed is there. And it is also saying what is that which is editable, what I can write it. So after that, it has computed and it has given me the working file for my GSTR9. Ideally, this is what you should report in various tables of GSTR9. It has made some adjustments and it is reporting. Now, people always have this question of table 8. Let me show you the table 8. How do I report the values in table 8? So the table 8 values, where do I report? What is the reconciliation? And there was also a question which asked about 8A versus 2A. There's a report called 8A versus 2A. Let me show you this report. So this shows that the values that are there in my table 8. In my 2A, it is 4 crore 29. In 8A, it is 4 crore 28. And you can see IGST, CGST, SGST, all these values. It is trying to match what is the values which are there in 2A but not in 8A, or it is there but it should be ineligible or eligible. This segregation tool is automatically doing and extracting the information which is required for filing your GSTR9. all that information is automatically extracted and given by the tool. That means in one go, all the information that is required for me to file my returns is extracted and brought into one place. As I said, do not expect that this tool will give you R9 which you can print and send. Then that means then the purpose of human intellect is gone. The purpose of the tools is to give you an ability to take a better decision. That is what the tool is doing, right? So with this, we have come to reporting changes we have seen. Yeah, with this we have seen the Excel utility, we have seen the other automation utility which can simplify all your activities. Yeah, I have come to end of the presentation. Yes, we are just in time. So if there are any questions, let me take those questions now. It's asking for password Excel utility. It won't. Poonam, just right click and refresh. Otherwise, you can just contact me. I'll maybe which version. Maybe we can just downgrade the Excel and send it to you. Gauri, Manjunath, will the refresh work with the tally data open? Yes, tally data has to be open. Only then the refresh would work. Are the Excel sheets useful only for the tally data? Can it be used for accounting packages like Zoho or Navision? The Excel tool right now is customized only for the tally data. If you are using like Zoho is a cloud, again, little complicated API integration, but you are using other desktop applications, you can just use that. Yeah. Poonam, I request don't open in XLS file the higher version of the XLSX, it would work. Do we need to have the subscription of Tally on Wheels separately or existing Tally license? Tally on Wheels is a third-party application, so you need to have a separate subscription. My screen is frozen. Okay, I just didn't notice it. Unable to see your screen. Oh my God, I don't know if something was missing. Tally, okay, tool was working, super, thank you, Tejaswini. Does this give line item wise reconciliation between 2A and books? Yes, Santosh, it will give you line item wise reconciliation. Tally on Wheels, again, only for tally data? Yes, right now it's only for the tally data. All right, so I have answered. Rahul, thank you for sharing the insights. Thank you. Got that. All right, with this, I think I have answered all the questions. Now, maybe if they can unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. And feel free to write to me if you have any more doubts on this. Now I'm open to take questions on GST other than 9 and 9 because I'm more particular about the time in which allocated to me complete the session. But I'm available to take up any questions. Maybe you can unmute yourself and ask. But I should definitely appreciate KSCAA for putting up this session in a timely manner, and Pramod and the team for doing a beautiful job in conducting various sessions. Thank you, KSCAA, and thank you, participants, for your timely attention.
Thank you, sir. Actually, it was a beautiful session. The questions and the participant also participated very nicely because the question, if you see, it is more than 50 and all the questions has been answered. And I'm honored and lucky to have been given the opportunity to present the vote of thanks today. I would like to thank CA Venugopal Gella, sir, for explaining the use of Excel in preparation of GSTR9 such an extraordinary way. I would also thank our president at KSCA, CA Pramod Srihari, and CA Subramanya BL, Chairman IDT Committee KSCA, for being ever supporting and encouraging us to conduct the sessions. I thank KSCA for taking up an initiative in organizing such a knowledgeable, enriching webinar. Finally, I would like to thank all the attendees for being a part of today's webinar. Before I conclude, I would like to bring the notice that all the attendees that KSCA has planned for many other sessions for the future, and all such details are available in our portal ksca.com. Participants shall be able to refer today's PPT and video at the KSCA website for their future reference. I would like to thank everyone again for making today's webinar success. Thank you all. Thank you, Venugopal sir.
Thank you.